Hi, I'm Nick and welcome to Talking Old World. If you follow Warhammer community articles, you may have seen that they posted a new Old World event for next year, which is called War and Conquest 3. It isn't the Throne of Skulls 2-day event. This one's a midweek 1-day event taking place on Wednesday the 26th of March. It'll be the third one of its kind, and as I've been to the previous two, I thought it might be worth giving people an overview of what they're like. So, what's it all about? Well, it's 3 games of everyone's favourite system, Warhammer the Old World. It's 1,250 points, which I know will put some people off as they want to use all their toys, and that's fine. I totally get that. And there are loads of events at higher points levels to keep those people happy. But you don't see many at this points level anymore. Initially, when the Old World released, there were a lot at 1250 or at 1500 while people got their armies together. And I still see a few at 1500, but generally the vast majority are being ran at 2000 now, and some are even more than that. Which in some ways is a bit of a shame, because I know plenty of people who are still just starting out with the Old World. It's still a relatively new game. Not all the factions have even been released yet. A lot of people will have been waiting for the army they wanted to come out, so the fact a lot of events have moved on to 2,000 points now must make getting involved in those seem a long way off. Whereas at the start of the year, when I was putting an army together, there was probably more options. That being said, a lot of the 2,000 point events don't require a fully painted armies to help with that. But all of it means I just think it's actually a positive for Games Workshop to still be holding these 1,250 points events, as it gives those people who are just starting out something to aim for, as you do need to have a fully painted army, which at this level is obviously a bit easier to do than at 2,000. The first War and Conquest back in May, I was scrambling to get stuff painted, and I know 2 of my 3 opponents have been doing the same. The end result is it gave us the motivation to get it done, and obviously the game just looks so much better when everything is painted. Another thing to note is that the army can only be comprised of GW models. It's understandable for an event held at Warhammer World. They can, however, be from a different system. So, for example, people were running Age of Sigmar models for their Warriors of Chaos armies. Unfortunately, though, no legacy factions are allowed. Hopefully that situation will change in the future, but for now, if you want to play at Warhammer World, that's what you're stuck with. We're looking at the event pack. The registration opens at 10 and the first round is at 10:30, so a later start than most events, I'd say. And it's all done by 6 as well, which is actually really nice for somebody who has to drive a fair distance to get there. The rounds are only 1 hour and 45 minutes, which is enough at this points level, but I did have a few which didn't finish. I would say I can play quickly, but I end up chatting so much during my games that I while away a lot of the time and end up a bit short on occasions. So on the plus side, I did meet a bunch of great people and I made some friends along the way. We had lots of fun playing, so that's the main thing. The scoring's on victory points as per the main rule book. They run their events using Best Coast pairings, and you do need to submit your list on that. I think it was the night before last time. The scenarios are from the main rule book. We had open battle, meeting engagement and breakpoint last time. I think the first time we had flank attack and command and control in there. So they do vary it a bit. We were on 6x4 tables most recently, which was great. The first event was actually on smaller tables, and I do remember that being a bit problematic even at 1250 when we had to do like flank attack. Prizes, they were given for all the usual stuff, 1st to 3rd place, and then the best painted and best sports as well. If you've never been to Warhammer World before, then I do have to say it's a really nice place to play at. The room looks awesome, the terrain and tables are all really good. It's a huge space. I think there were around 20 to 30 people at each event, and we didn't even take up half the room. There were lots of other people there playing other game systems, and you can just book a table to come and play casually if you like. Bugman's Bar's great, plenty of options for food and drink there. So yeah, it's just all round, I think it's a pretty cool space to play, and if you've not been there, then it's well worth a visit. And here's a picture of my high elves. This is the force that I took to the most recent event. I don't have a picture of the first one. That included blocks of spearmen and things like that. So the list has been refined a bit since then, basically to remove the infantry because they're not doing too great this edition, and to try and get things in that would do a little better for me, as I wanted to get myself a bit higher up the table this time. Here's the list. So yeah, there's a noble on a sun dragon, which is the baby dragon as everyone knows it. It's toughness 5, 6 wounds. He's got a 5 up regen, a 6 up ward, and once per game a 2 up ward with the opal amulet as well. So not the big star daddy that everyone's afraid of, but still a pretty good unit to put on the board when you're at lower points especially. And there's an archmage in there on an elven steed. They're hanging around with the 5 reavers just as a bunker, and they're still in skirmish, so they get that 360 degree casting arc. Got 5 silver helms, 2 units of 5 archers, 5 dragon princes just with a champion, and 10 sisters of Avalon with the ruby ring. So yeah, most of the good bits from the high elf list basically: sisters, dragons, mages, dragon princes. That's about it really. It's pretty standard, to be honest, I guess, at this points level to see these units. The sword masters and the elite infantry just don't really make it into my list as much anymore when I'm going to an event, but I still love putting them on the table when I'm just playing at the club and stuff. It's just, if you want to try and win a game, then I think you'll find it hard to do it with those infantry blocks, but good on you for anyone who's trying. I'm actually rethinking my lists a bit now to see if I can work something out that feels like infantry is making a bit of a comeback. So yeah, I think the meta just shifts and changes all the time, it seems. So, but for now, this was what I was running. My first matchup was against Glenn with his Wolves of the Sea army. Glenn was really fun to play against. He was a great bloke. We actually thought we were going to go to the same square-based event in November, but turned out we got our wires crossed, and I think Glenn was there the week after me, so I'll meet him again at some point, I'm sure. So Glenn had Wolves of the Sea, like I said. He started off the game with the challenge. He had a unit of 5 Chaos Warriors with a champion in who he kitted out just for the challenges. So I make probably too many decisions based on the funsies and accepted with my Dragon Prince champion, who I thought might count as charging, but turns out he didn't, and was just hitting back with his hand weapon, which was basically at strength 3, like a wet paper bag. So Glenn's Chaos Warriors duly slaughtered him, and off we started with me a 44-point model down and Glenn getting the first turn. At which point Glenn just yeeted every single thing that he had forward, basically. He just wanted to get in as quickly as possible, which was great for me with a couple of impetuous units. I just want to have a choice of charge targets. So I was able to take my pick with the dragon. I think the Dragon Prince actually held off, but the dragon went into the skin wolves and was able to kill them and just overrun through and behind the lines of Glenn. He managed to reform, and then he was facing backward into the back of Glenn's lines. So Glenn then had the decision to have to make of whether he continued on or he reformed to face the dragon and stuff. So that was pretty key, really, to be honest. I'd shot off some of the Marauder Horsemen with the Sisters and the Mages unit, so they weren't really a danger anymore. And then I was able to pick off another unit or two as Glenn had to sort of separate his forces. So yeah, fortunate for me, it was still really loads of fun. Glenn went on and won his next couple of games. So I think it was his first matchup with his Wolves of the Sea, so he was still learning about them as well. But yeah, loads of fun. So after that we went off for lunch, and here's some of the pictures of the best painted. So on to my second game, and I apologise because there's only one photo of this one. I'll definitely do better with these in the future. Anyway, it was a high elf mirror match. My opponent was Josh. Again, he was great. He had a really fun list with loads of dragon princes and a prince with the ogre blade in there. Josh has played quite a bit this edition and previous editions, I think, but at some point a long time ago he basically decided he was going to ignore magic, and he's just literally never even taken a mage in the old world at any point. So I thought that was quite fun. The scenario was meeting engagement, so it's diagonal deployment, and turn 1 charges are on if you deploy on the line. We both tried to hedge our bets a bit, and we left some stuff close to the line, but I didn't want to leave myself too exposed if he got the first turn. But I really wanted to give myself a couple of options just in case I did. Unfortunately, we rolled it and I got that first turn, and it was pretty crucial in the outcome of the game, I guess. I was able to get the charges off that I'd left myself. My dragon princes actually managed to get into his sisters on the hill. My noble on the sun dragon went into his archers, and his silver helms fled from a charge from mine. So my dragon princes and my noble, you can see they were killed both of the units that they went into, and then on Josh's turn he charged his big unit of dragon princes into my silver helms, who he'd exposed with that good flee move. He killed 3 of them, and the remaining 2 sort of failed their break test and ran away, I think. And from there I was just trying to use arcane urgency to keep my sisters and my reavers away from his big dragon prince unit, while they just sort of annoyed them and whittled them down. Meanwhile, my dragon princes and my noble mopped up his silver helms, and fortunately my remaining 2 silver helms who'd fled rallied, and that all just sort of left me with another win by around 600 points, I think. So after the first couple of games I was doing pretty well, and that put me onto table 2 going into round 3. So last game of the day, and it was so tense. I was up against Joe with his orcs and goblins. Joe was super fun, 10 out of 10 mustache on him. His army was basically the green skin contingent for his chaos dwarves, so he mainly runs for the old world. He really knew what he was doing, and we rattled through this game. Worryingly for me, he'd just beaten another high elf army that was running double sun dragon, and his black orc on wyvern had killed both of them, so that had made me really worried about this one. He was running a big unit of black orcs with a level 2 that was casting earthen ramparts on them all the time. He had a unit of wolf riders with I think a goblin big boss that had the ruby ring and Walloper's one hit wonder. He had 3 snotling pump wagons to use as chaff and for baiting, and he also had a giant as well. I deployed fairly centrally, whereas Joe was more spread out across his line. I think he got first turn, and one of his pump wagons baited my dragon princes and dragon out on the left flank, while he moved up aggressively on my right flank with his wyvern and came straight through the middle with his giant. His wolf riders were popping out from behind the arcane ruins using ruby ring and then reserve moving back behind it. My level 4 was doing a good job though, dispelling that initially. So my dragon princes and dragon killed the pump wagon and were staring down his black orcs. Meanwhile, I'd marched my silver helm straight past his giant out of its arc, leaving it with a free run at my sisters and mage seemingly. However, they were doing some really good work whittling wounds off, like 2 fireballs, 20 strength 3 shots won't do much against something like the wyvern, but against a giant who doesn't have the armor and regen saves, there's a chance. And after a couple of turns, they did take the giant down, which was great for me, but annoying for Joe, as he was trying to use it to pen them in.
So his wyvern had got into one of my units of archers on my right hand flank and then reformed to face my mage and sisters, almost where you can see him on the photo. I'd been moving my sisters and my mage's unit away from the wyvern, trying to stay out of charge range, which I thought I'd achieved. However, on his turn, Joe suddenly declared a charge and he was actually just in range. So it was a big mistake from me. It was difficult as his wyvern had been sort of propped up partially on that hill and was wobbling about a bit, and it was literally just in. So the charge was declared, and unfortunately the mage just then failed her terror test, and her and the reavers just fled straight off the board. So it was a big swing back to the greenskins. So my noble dragon princes and silverhelms had gotten into a big prolonged battle with the Black Orcs. The earthen ramparts on a unit of Black Orcs just makes them even tougher to deal with. My silverhelms were even in the flank, but I was struggling to shift them. He charged his wolf riders into the back of my silverhelms at one point, but the silverhelms were counting as charging from their previous turn, and after he'd only killed like one with wallopers, they went next and rolled as well as I've ever seen silverhelms roll to kill a bunch of the wolf riders and the goblin big boss, leaving just one of them alive. Unfortunately for me, the Black Orcs were still doing their job as an incredibly good anvil in the old world, and they bought his general enough time to move into position to get a rear charge off on my noble. After already having 2 Sun Dragon heads to his name, he wanted to make it a third. I had to reform my noble to face him, and it came down to a big general fight. So in the wyvern charged. Thankfully for me, I think the previous 2 Sun Dragons had come into the day pretty naked, whereas mine was a little better equipped. I actually managed to win the combat by 1 or 2. Unfortunately for me, the Black Orc fled and I ran him down. That was pretty much the game. Really unlucky for Joe, unlucky for me. It was a really close matchup and he could easily have taken it if the dice had been better for him. But the end result was I managed to win by around 200 to 300 points, and it was enough to see me finish undefeated in 2nd place at the event, taking home with me this lovely silver medal. I was super proud, super happy to go somewhere like Warhammer World and finish well. I've never managed it before. I've had a couple of podiums at the local club, but nothing quite as good as this. So yeah, pretty chuffed. Such a fun day, and despite that extremely sweaty last battle, I have to say the day is super relaxed, and out of all the 6 games I played in these events, that was the only one which was in any way tense. I'd highly recommend these events for anybody who's keen to get a taste of playing Old World competitively, or just for those who want to come out to play a few games in a day. I'm not on commission or anything to do with GW before anyone asks. I'm just really keen to see the game grow. So the tickets go on sale Monday the 2nd of December for War and Conquest 3. If you fancy having a go yourself, then get onto Eventbrite and sign up. Hopefully I'll be there again, and if I do see you, then say hello. And if you've made it this far, then thanks so much for tuning in and getting all the way to the end of my rambling. I'll be back again soon with a miniature rescue video that I hope will be more fun than my usual dreary nonsense. And if you have made it this far, then I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and any likes or subscribes would be massively appreciated too. All the best for now, and hope you carry on enjoying your adventures in the old world. Cheers.